Hi, everyone. This is David Galante with Burton Energy Group. Thank you for joining today. I'm going to just wait another minute. People are joining on right now, and we will start in 1 minute. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you again. We're going to get started. Name again is David Galante. I'm with Burton Energy Group, and Burton is one of the service providers for ComEd Small Business Offering Program and also now the Public Sector Program. So I'm going to go through the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to post them online, and I will get to them at the end of the session. All right, so we will move ahead now. First slide. So the incentives, just want to briefly kind of go over here before we dive into too much, just a kind of a broad overview of the different types of incentives available. Obviously, today we're going to spend most of our time on HVAC. These are the highest HVAC incentives in the entire country. So it's fantastic that's in your backyard and that we can take advantage of it, hopefully, especially during this time with COVID-19, to sustain and grow your business. Now, just some other rebates here. Refrigeration is also extremely strong. If you do get involved with any refrigeration in measures, you can also leverage these, and we can help you capture them. Compressed air, also very good. And then there's other areas where I imagine you probably don't get too involved in, like lighting, also some of the best in the entire country. But if you have friends or other contractors that you work with, that if you wanted to, you can team up on doing a lighting project along with your HVAC project. ComEd does like to have as much of a comprehensive program as possible whenever they do a site for energy efficiency. So this is something you can consider. Other areas, envelope and controls. Okay, so I want to start off with just some kind of key paperwork issues that need to be done in order to participate. So the first step is Illinois in 2018 instituted that anybody that is obtaining incentives that are over $300, you need to become an approved energy efficiency installer. So this is paperwork that you need to fill out and send into the ICC. It does take about 4 to 6 weeks to go ahead and get your approval. So it is important that you begin this paperwork as soon as possible. I do know by checking on the website for the ICC that although all of their employees are working remote right now, they are continuing and will be processing this paperwork. You will have to jump through some hoops. You'll have to get $100, also certificates of insurance and other documents signed and sent in. The key part about this is that you cannot install any equipment until your paperwork is approved. So like I said, it does take 4 to 6 weeks. So you want to make sure that if you're not already approved as a vendor, to make sure that you start your paperwork. This is the link. At the end of this website or webinar, my contact information will be posted. Feel free to send me an email and I can send you information about what needs to be done to complete your paperwork for the ICC Energy Efficiency Installer. Now, if you already are approved, you do need to go ahead and submit on a new renewal form. Deadline on that is June 1st. Again, I have a copy of what that form is. So if you are an approved ICC Energy Efficiency Installer and you have not received your letter in the mail about this, go ahead and contact me at the end. Or like I said, my email address will be at the end and you can go ahead and send that to me and I'll forward you a copy of that. But it doesn't cost anything to do it. It does need to be notarized, and like I said, no fee to deliver it. However, if there is a late fee, after June 1st, they charge you $10 per day with a minimum of $100 up to $1,000 maximum. So it is important that you go ahead and submit your renewal form on time. So that's the ICC documentation. The next item I want to talk about is what's called the key personnel form. Burton Energy Group, again, is a service provider, approved service provider in the ComEd program. Any contractor that's actually doing installation work on the HVAC install, you're effectively a subcontractor to Burton with regards to just the rebates. So there's some paperwork that has to be done before any installation begins. It's not really too hard, but you just fill out some paperwork, send it to us. We need to have one individual from each of the company approved, and you complete the paperwork. We do need then a copy of a PDF of your electrical license if you have that, or refrigeration license, or an EPA card. And then also we'll need certificates of insurance, one for Burton. And Nexent is actually the company that runs the small business offering program. So we need to have a COI for them as well. And then also that one individual needs to have a completed background and drug test performed. Burton does not want the actual final results of the background or drug test, but we do need to have you sign a form saying that you have completed it and done all the required testing for the program. Again, if you have any questions on this afterwards, I can go ahead and send you all the details about the paperwork that has to be done for the key personnel form. All right, now we're going to get started talking about the actual program itself. So this is just a visual to kind of give you an idea of the entire area of ComEd. So it covers the northern half of Illinois, and we can do projects in any of these territories. I put a note down here, Naperville, and there are other local municipalities that are not part of ComEd, so therefore you would not be able to get the rebates for any of the markets that are not actual ComEd utility territory. So here's the program. The first step is you need to make sure that your customer is eligible. Number one, it has to be a ComEd customer. Number two, they have to be directly metered as a commercial account. It cannot be a residential account. And then also the site has to use under 100 kW usage for the past 12 months. I typically say about 60 tons or less, chances are you'll qualify. A lot of people don't think in kilowatts, and just to kind of give you an idea of how this works is that you can kind of think of kilowatts as kind of a speedometer on your car. If you went 100 miles an hour in your car during the last 12 months, you went over 100 miles. Same thing with kW. If you just hit for a split second 100 kW or more during those last 12 months, you will not qualify for this program. That's why it's important to verify this. Once you get the ComEd account number, number one, you can send me an email and I can check to see if it'll qualify, or I can also show you how to do that. I didn't include it in today's presentation, but it's pretty easy. You just go ahead and go on ComEd's website, type in the 10-digit ComEd account number, and then it will pull up the usage for the last 24 months. As long as the last 12 months are under 100 kW, you'll qualify. It also will state the type of rate tariff that the customer is on, and at the very bottom, it'll show 0 to 100. As long as it says 0 to 100, you should be fine. But I can also always check this for you. So assuming you've gone ahead and approved there, then this is also just to note that Burton Energy Group, we are one of the approved service providers. We're one of the few service providers in the program that are helping other contractors capture the rebates for their customers. And Burton does charge a fee. So we charge a 15% fee for that. And your customer will receive the balance 85%. We tend to prefer to send the check directly to your customer rather than send it to the contractor. Just it makes it more seamless, and you're not waiting for your money, you're getting paid by your customer. Process, I'm going to dive in pretty deep into the process in just a moment, but just to kind of give you a high level, before you go ahead and order or install your equipment, you have to get your projects pre-approved by ComEd. So we already checked to make sure your ComEd account number is under 100 kW. So if that works out and you're under 100, then you can go on to the process. We need to capture some information to complete the applications, and then we submit the application. It typically takes about 2 weeks or less to get pre-approved. And once you're pre-approved, then you can go ahead and install order and install your equipment. And then finally, once you're complete, there's some photos we'll need, and then we submit those to ComEd, and about 30 to 45 days later, the check arrives to Burton, and then we'll go ahead and extract our fee and then cut a new check and send it directly onto the customer. Okay, so here's the breakdown of how the incentives work for the HVAC. Number one, they pay $400 a ton for early replacement. So provided the equipment is working right now, you can go ahead and replace it and put a high efficient unit on, and you'll get $400 a ton. So it has to be functioning. The replacement unit has to be the same capacity as the existing unit. It can be smaller, but it's like for like. So if it's a 10-ton unit, you're going to get $400 or $4,000 for that 10-ton unit. If you happen to put a 5-ton unit in its place, maybe it was oversized before, then you're only going to get the $2,000 for that one unit. Has to be high efficient, so it has to be a CE Tier 2, and it's going to be a CE Tier 2 that's a 2016-2018 version, and TEC, who Burton partners with on this rebate program, they have all the spec sheets for every size unit that will qualify for this program. So talk to your TEC TM, and they can go ahead and get you the spec sheets for this program. The units, if they are between 20 and 30 tons, the rebates do drop. They'll go to $250 per ton for early replacement. So you just want to make sure about that. And you cannot install any units larger than 30 tons. End of life. So if the unit is not working at all, it's considered end of life, or if it costs more than $2,000 to repair, then it's considered end of life. So the range on the rebates on this is going to be $180 to $300. Basically, if the unit is less than 5 tons, then they will only pay $180 per ton if the unit is at end of life. But anything between 5 and 20 tons, they'll pay $300 a ton. And they've changed the program now, and they will not pay any end of life for anything that's bigger than 20 tons. So that's important to remember. Again, ideally, you want to replace like for like, so they can get the maximum amount of incentives. If you go a larger unit, you're still going to, like I said, get whatever that size is. So for instance, if it's a 10-ton unit now, and you go ahead and replace it with a 15-ton, you're still going to get only the rebates on the 10-ton. Like I said, no end-of-life rebates for anything greater than 20 tons. All right, so that's the first component, which is the early replacement. Now you can get an additional $300 per ton to add demand control ventilation to the economizer. So you go ahead and add a CO2 sensor. Typically, they only cost about $500, but say on a 10-ton unit, now you're going to get $3,000 for a $500 part. So this is going to be integrated with the dampers for the demand control ventilation, and it is required that it has to be for units that are gas heating only. So that's where you get your total of $700 per ton, and less Burton's 15% fee. The customer is going to see $595 per ton. And just to emphasize again that this program is the best in the entire country. Burton Energy Group, we work with national account customers and are always looking for the best rebates all over the country. Typically, the best we find is maybe $250 a ton. A lot of rebate programs on the HVAC are $50 or less. So you want to try to leverage this program as much as possible. Okay, so now just want to kind of show you a quick overview of the part load efficiency requirements. And everything in red, this program, you can use it for split systems or package units. Package units, of course, you're going to get a much higher rebate. But in any one of these boxes, the efficiency of the unit has to be both. So if it's a 5-ton unit, it's going to have to be a 16 SEER and a 12 EER if it's a single package unit. If it's say a 10-ton unit, then it's going to have to be both a 12 EER and a 13.8 IER minimum. Again, maximum is 30 tons. Okay. Here I just put together a quick calculation just to kind of give you a visual on the dollar amounts here. So say you're replacing 30 tons total, 4 7.5-ton units. They're over 10 years. And just want to note there that when it comes to the early replacement, that's completely up to your customer of how early they want to replace the unit. There's no requirement that it has to be over 10 years or over 15 years. It's completely up to your customer of the age that you want to replace it and put higher efficient units. So I just kind of threw out there that say in this scenario that's cost maybe $1,400 per ton to purchase and install the units. You're talking an overall project cost of $42,000. So for the replacement, you're going to get the $400 per ton, which is $12,000. And then to add the CO2 sensor for the demand and control ventilation, you're going to see another $9,000, so $21,000 less Burton's fee. So the customer is going to net out $17,850 for the project. And so say after total project cost, it's going to be $24,000 and change, about $800 per ton. The customer is going to see about 43% net savings in this example. All right, so now I'm going to go in a little bit more detail about how the pre-application process works. Now, Burton does most of this on our side, but I just want to kind of give you an overview so that you're aware of how the process works when you're explaining it to your customer. And I also do have a kind of a PowerPoint or PDF, kind of a quick overview that you can share with your customers so that they understand the program as well. And like afterwards, if anybody is interested in that PDF, again, email me afterwards and I can send that to you. All right, so first thing, again, you want to capture the ComEd account number. We need to check to see if it's under 100 kW. We will need eventually an actual ComEd statement. So you don't have to capture it right away just to check, but keep that in mind. And I also do have a PDF with the customer information form that has all the items that we need to capture to complete the application, and it lists there as the ComEd statement as one of them. Now your project must be pre-approved before you can go ahead and order and install your equipment. Once you're, well, let's see, let's just move on to the next one here. So like I said, you're going to need eventually a ComEd account statement with the account number visible. We're also going to need photos of the existing units. So you want to go ahead and take a picture of the nameplate of the existing unit. Even if it's stated by the sun, we're still going to need a picture of it. Or I've even seen it where it's stuck behind some piece of controls or however it's set up, we still need a picture of it. And then a picture of the unit. And then we'll need the spec sheets for the units. Like I said, TEC, they have spec sheets for each size unit that you want to purchase for your project. So they can go ahead and send those to you and then make sure to forward those over to Burton. And then we'll also need the spec sheet for the CO2 sensor that you want to install. It's typical that that's aftermarket, and you can install that in the return duct. Okay, and then also, of course, that the units have to meet the CE Tier 2 efficiency requirements. But like I said, TEC will already have that set up for you. All right, so you've done that. And now we also need a customer W-9, or in some cases, for instance, this program, you can use it for landlords. So say you have a customer that owns a retail shopping center. We can go ahead and capture the rebates for the landlord if the landlord's paying for the units. However, it's still based on the ComEd customer, so we would still need to get the ComEd statement from the customer for each particular space, and then the customer will actually be signing the application. So just keep that in mind. Once we submit the application, and just to note that what will happen is that now everything's done electronically. So once we go ahead and Burton completes the paperwork, it's going to be sent on to the customer for signature. It'll be sent to their email. So you'll want to follow up with your customer to make sure that they received the ComEd application. Once they sign that application, it's sent right back to Burton, and we go ahead and submit that for approval. The other thing to note is that two things. It's optional, but we prefer that you tell us how much your project cost is, because when we complete the paperwork, we need to go ahead and enter a price of the project. Now, we can put in a project price that's below or above what your actual project cost is, but then when the customer receives that application, they might be confused why the ComEd application price for the project is different from the one that you quoted them. So we'd like to put the actual price. The other thing too that you want to make sure to tell your customers is that the rebate amount is the total rebate amount. There's no way for Burton to modify the application to show just the net amount that the customer is going to receive. So say if it's a $20,000 rebate, you want to make sure to tell them that it's a total $20,000 that's showing up, but it's going to be less after the 15% less after Burton fee. All right, so we've gone ahead, we've submitted it. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks to get pre-approved. If your project is over $30,000, it's going to trigger an automatic mandatory site visit by ComEd. They will schedule that with, well, they reach out to us and we schedule it with the customer about when they can come by to take a look at the existing equipment. We are finding that the pre-approval process, if there is no mandatory site visit, it's probably 1 to 2 weeks. But on a conservative basis, it takes about 2 weeks to get pre-approved. ComEd is always trying to streamline and get this process quicker and quicker, so just keep that in mind. This program is not really used for just if a piece of equipment breaks down. This is a process where you want to make sure that you've got plenty of time ahead of time to install the units, because for instance, TEC, all these units that are CE Tier 2 are manufactured in Mexico, and there's about a 6-week lead time for delivery. So this is not a program that's best used for when units just fail and need to be replaced right away. So keep that in mind. All right, so we've gone ahead, we submitted your paperwork, your customer signed off on it, and now after the 2 weeks, ComEd comes back and your project is pre-approved. What they do is they go ahead and reserve your dollars and rebates for your project. I do want to state that if for some reason your customer decides they don't want to do the project, you can cancel it and the funds will just be put back into the pot for other customers. However, if you put your purchase order in with, say, TEC, that's most likely going to be an issue because you've already ordered it and they can't necessarily cancel your order. So work with TEC on that. But I just want to let you know about the fact that you can cancel it. And the other thing too, just to remember, is that these rebates, they really don't come from thin air. Everybody that's participating in the ComEd program is participating, and money is going into a pot for this program. There's a societal benefit charge on your statement, and even residential customers, everybody is paying into the system. So it's one of these things where the customer is getting their money back, and chances are maybe their neighbor's money back if they're not taking advantage of this program. So that's another thing you can explain to them. All right, so you're pre-approved, you're reserved. Now, next process is you've got a 90-day window to order and install your equipment. We do monitor this deadline, and if we're starting to get close to this 90-day window expiring, we'll reach out to you and find out where your project is on the timeline-wise. And if it's necessary, we'll go ahead and request a 30-day extension. They've always extended us the 30-day extension, and we can do it again and again and again as necessary. Never had an issue with that. We just want to make sure that we communicate to ComEd so they know when your project will be completed. Okay, so I already mentioned about the fact that they can cancel without any ramifications on the program side, but not with the order of the equipment. All right, so now you've installed your equipment, and the next step for the final application. Now we need to have photos of brand new units installed. We need to have a photo of the RTU. We need to have a photo of the nameplate. We need to have a photo of the CO2 sensor. And we also need to have a photo of the economizer control module. No real need to memorize this or write this down, because we're going to go ahead and notify you when you're pre-approved of all the photos we need once your project is installed, and so that you can send those pictures back to us so we can submit them for the final application. And once it's submitted, and again, just to note that, again, if this rebates are over $30,000, which in this program is not too hard to do if it's a large enough site, that the ComEd will have to come back and do another follow-up site visit to inspect the brand new equipment. And that will tend to, of course, extend the timeline that will receive the check. All right, so you're installed, you've got your photos sent to us. Now, once we submit the final paperwork, it takes about 30 to 45 days for the check to arrive to Burton. The check always flows to Burton first. So and that's where we extract our fee and then send the balance on to the customer within about 5 business days. And so that's the process. And now I want to touch on a couple of facts about the program and take advantage of it. I mentioned before about multi-tenanted landlords-owned buildings. We even did rebates, for instance, the Yorktown Mall. I mean, you can do this program on very large facilities, even though it's at 100 kW, because again, it's the tenant space that has to be under 100 kW. If it's separately metered, or separate account number, that's how you can do this on large spaces. And so again, it's based on the tenant common account usage. The rebate can be sent to the landlord. The only difference in this scenario is that if it is going to be sent to the landlord, then we're going to need the W-9 from the landlord and not the tenant. Now, in some cases, this program, for instance, will not work for a vacant building. If the building is being renovated or upgraded in any fashion and there's no tenant in place, this program cannot be applied. However, if there's a brand new tenant and they've been there for at least 1 month and we have at least one ComEd utility statement and they're under 100 kW, we can then go ahead and capture the rebates for any HVAC units that the landlord wants to install. Okay. So that's multi-tenant landlords. This is a great program to take advantage for them. So I highly encourage you to reach out to any of your retail or multi-tenanted sites. In some cases, can larger or smaller units be installed? The answer is yes. So I touched on it briefly before, but more often than not, this program is designed for like units. But if the unit being installed is going to be larger than the existing unit, you'll just get the rebates for the unit's original size. Or if, on the flip side, the unit you're replacing is going to be smaller than the existing, then you'll just be getting the rebate on the brand new unit size. So keep that in mind. We don't really come across that too often, but just want to make sure you're aware of that. Other facts, in certain circumstances, the ComEd will approve projects that have just bumped over 100 kW, maybe once or twice over the past 12 months. Really has to be right on the edge there. We have to do this on a case-by-case basis. We can't guarantee that they'll approve it, but just want to make sure you're aware of that. And other item I just want to point out too, that this program works great for multi-tenanted sites, or not multi-tenant, but franchisee type sites. I mean, we've done this program on McDonald's. We've done it on other quick serve restaurants. And if franchisees or you work with franchisees on their overall sites, make sure to tell them about this, and hopefully you can develop brand new projects that they were thinking or waiting about replacing their units, and the rebates can push them over the edge on implementing. Okay, so that was everything to do with the small business offering program. Now I want to touch on briefly the ComEd public small facilities program. So this program is run by a completely different company. In fact, the previous program, the small business offering, is run by a company called Nexent that we work closely with, and this program is run by a company called DNVG. No, I'm sorry, not DNVGL. It's Willdan. Willdan is the company that runs this program. It is the same rebate amounts, $700 per ton. Same thing for the lighting and other measures, and it's totally focused towards local government, schools, park buildings, colleges, universities, libraries, everything on this slide. So if you work in this area and you want to capture rebates for your customer, or they're thinking about doing projects and they're on the fence, hopefully the ComEd rebates can push them to move forward with their project. Now, with this program, the requirements are a little different. We first, as always, need to make sure that they're under 100 kW, so we'll need to get a copy of the account number. We actually, in this case, do not need an actual statement for this particular program, for the public program, but we do need the account number. We'll also need still the equipment specs on the HVAC and the CO2 sensors, the demand control ventilation. And then once the job is complete, we'll need a breakdown of all the costs with a final invoice for material costs, labor, and total costs. So a little bit different. In the small business offering program, we didn't need an invoice, but with the public program, we do. So, and when we get to that point, we can talk offline to any contractor if you have any questions about this, and make sure we submit the correct paperwork. So this program is very different. No need at this point to really dive in too deep on this. Timeline is probably about the same. This program is relatively new, so it was revamped this year. But let me know if you have any projects in the public sector, and we'll start processing your paperwork. So that's really it. Next steps, again, is always to get the 10-digit common account number to verify. And with that, any questions, I have a contact information up there. Make sure to reach out to me with anything you have. I can, like I said, pull and verify common account numbers for you to see if they're under the 100 kW. I can also teach you how to do that. And I can also send you any information on the key personnel form or the ICC documentation. I work closely with contractors, so like I said, feel free to give me a call or email, and I can walk you through all the different steps. With that, what I'm going to do is check to see if there's any questions. And I'm going to put you on hold for just a moment while I check these questions and dive into them. Hold on. Okay, first question is, if they haven't done the key personnel form in the past, does it still apply to something they needed to renew? There was a point in time a couple of years ago when we did not need to do the key personnel form, but that has changed. And so if you are going to do any projects with the ComEd program, we will need to have the key personnel paperwork completed. Okay, next question is, ComEd doing virtual pre-approval site visits this month via technology such as FaceTime, Skype, et cetera. I'm not aware of them doing that. I have to check on that about if they're having any issues via COVID-19, I mean. So I will have to get back to you. But in the meantime, I mean, let's just go ahead and assume everything is standard and moving along. If I find out that the program is stalled because of COVID-19, I will go ahead and email everybody on that. Okay, question is about the photo of the economizer board. We will need a picture of the economizer board for any piece of equipment that has that once it's installed. Now the question is, can we get copies of the slides? Yes, I can send out copies of the slides, and this also is being recorded, and I'll post that as well. Okay, another question is, does Burton get involved with any other incentives such as HVAC tune-ups? We do not currently get involved with the HVAC tune-ups rebates. That may occur at a later time, but we are currently not doing that. And then there was another question about the recording of the presentation. Like I said, it has been recorded, and I will send out the link to everybody so that they can have access to it. I'll wait a few more moments here if anybody has any other questions. But until other questions come in, I want to thank everybody for participating today. And like I mentioned, if you have any questions, make sure to email or call me directly. And hopefully this will help you push more projects in the pipeline I've spoken to a host of different contractors, and especially the ones that find out that they've lost jobs to somebody that is participating or capturing the rebates for the customer. It is important to try to leverage this program as much as possible. Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that this program, you guys are, it's very fortunate that you guys have this program in your backyard, just because there are many areas around the country that don't have rebates anywhere near this level. So I hope you take advantage of it. I hope you can help to encourage your customers to move forward on their projects, especially in this precarious time when projects are probably going to be put on hold because of COVID-19. So I hope this helps. Okay, I think that's it. I don't see any other questions coming in. So I think that's going to be it for today. I want to thank everybody again for joining. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out and I can walk you through any part of the process and get you guys signed up so that you can start getting projects enrolled into the program. All right, thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.